Welcome back, everybody. Today we're discussing Bottoms. If you haven't seen Bottoms, keep in mind this video will have spoilers. I will be going over the plot, my thoughts, my theories. A good portion of this video will be a one-sided back and forth between me and your mom after a wonderful night in Venice when I really didn't know if I was ready for a long-term commitment. So, it's time for a video. I said it's time for a video. Everybody has time for a video. Everybody has time for a video. Okay, so Bottoms was a movie that had such little marketing. I feel fully compelled to include the producer, Orion, which is an MGM company, which means Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studio Incorporated, which is owned by Amazon, which is run by Jeff Bezos, who is a magical man who made a deal with the devil back for his wealth in 1856. And I include this because this wonderfully queer movie was so wonderfully done. It's a shame that they didn't believe in it enough to actually advertise it. I think I saw a single trailer, probably on YouTube, and that was it. I believe that, they obviously believe in the movie enough to spend money making it, but then they were just unwilling to shill out the big bucks to make sure that it got watched. I don't know if it's the devil man himself, but somebody's responsible for this, right? It hasn't trended, and it should have. This is a fucking phenomenal movie. Hopefully this video changes that and unites the world under one flag or capitalism or communism, or I don't know what the fucking joke is here, but let's get it. In the movie theater, I was writing notes for this movie, which does not happen often. Things just kept coming across my mind as like this outlandish film just unraveled before me, and I didn't want to forget them. The first was, this is gay Superbad. This is an absolute laugh factory for modern acceptable teen humor because it's gay, and we're much more willing to give gay people passes for edgy humor. That's just the truth of the world. If this movie was made 15 years ago, it would have been two guys becoming cheerleaders to touch more butts, and it would have trended well for its time and then been canceled by today's culture. The fact that it's two girls tricking other girls into wrestling with them so that they could fuck them is so wildly predatory. It could not exist if this was a male story, at least by today's standards. Overall, the premise is outlandish and not meant to be taken as the worst case scenario or act as an example study on how we should do anything. It's satire comedy done very well. It feels like the return of stupid comedy movies that don't need to be fucking overanalyzed for depth or anything like that. Of course, that's what I do. But honestly, I'm pumped for this movie. I'm so excited to get into it and review this, and let's do it. The movie starts off with the introduction of two bottom protagonists. They are written as cringy and as neurodivergent as possible while still having mass appeal and relatability. They lean into gay tropes. They talk about Mac and biddies and show that they have just about as much game as everybody else at that age, but of course they feel like losers who will never find a hole to call home. We've all been there. Hey, we've all been there. It's in this opening scene where Io? I'm really sorry. I think it's Io. Really stands out to me. Her acting this entire movie was done so well. It felt like she was just living in these moments, and I just want to give her props for that. They immediately introduce the goal of our protagonists to sleep with teenage girls, and then they focus us on the women that they are after and the odds that they face. The greatest odds are their own degraded self-image and lack of confidence, as well as living in a society that is not tailored to them. Sure, it's more acceptable to be gay, but now gays aren't treated more kindly for just being gay. They also have to be talented or incredibly hot like everybody else. So hey, equality, right? Society being some of the highest odds that they face is told explicitly with the example I just provided, but is best highlighted by the people of the world and everybody else who isn't one of the important women or characters in the spotlight of this movie. Everybody else just feels like the worst case scenario for the girls going through this situation, which is just beautiful storytelling because it gives us the lens of these girls. They are going through the world perceiving a comically bad reality, which can be problematic, sure, but it helps spell out how the protagonists are feeling. Everything feels patriarchal. Everything feels tailored to men and their cocks. Everything feels like a hurdle. And if this is what real teenage girls feel the world is, I think we acknowledge that. And we see how we can create a better world so that the next generation doesn't feel like every guy is looking at their ass when they walk by. This was another note I made during the movie after being kind of puzzled about why all the other characters were just so outlandish. And it's, again, so that we can better relate to the main characters and see the world as they see it. Plus, it's comedy, and the captain of the football team should be a closeted twink with mommy issues. Anything else is just wrong. PJ and Josie strike out, save the girl PJ is trying to smash. I'm sorry. that Josie's trying to smash, and obliterate this poor boy's kneecap. This was such a great introduction to the pace of this movie and how fucking silly things were about to get. It's gorgeous. Then they flee the scene of the crime and start the main football player versus nerd subplot that just transcends gender. The girls realize the next day that something is happening, that the high school Twittersphere is exploding at night about the violent and malicious assault that they just did. And it's an exaggeration, of course, but they don't intervene. They kind of just realize this is happening to them, and now reality is whomever said something first, which we should have all learned from Among Us, because hey, listen, I know you played it. We all went through COVID together. I'm playing it again right now. It's so good. Marshawn Lynch does a incredible job in this movie. Always so animated, but plays this goofy male professor just so well. He gets red-pilled later in the movie, and it is just, I was dying. I was laughing so hard, but let's not jump ahead.
Hey, you, overall bitch. This is you. God damn it, Jeff!
Jeff directly makes his intentions clear, and the intercom discusses their rivalry with Huntington. A girl was punched in the face last night by one of their students, and the principal insists that this is going to continue happening. The inclusion of this girl giving her own statement about her attack and calling out the people directly responsible is meant to elicit a response from the students. I think that they want that response to be school spirit so the football team wins, but really, it just makes the girls afraid, which is what leads to the other girls actually wanting to join this fight club. They're being conditioned. At the very core of what's happening here is fear-mongering. This plays into the narrative of this world and reality on why so many women feel unsafe by just existing. The whole world is just a constant barrage of why they are at risk. And not to undermine legitimate attacks or risk, but women are not defenseless, teeny tiny itty bitty babies. It's this it's a narrative that gets engagement, right? You need to be protected by men. You need to be the protectors as men. Whenever an attack is reported by the media, I think it's so important to consider the extra information that's being shared and why it's being shared. In this case, the victim of a crime is telling you about her assault the previous night. That would never happen.
Last night, outside the fair, a Huntington player followed me home, pinned me against my car, and punched me in the face. And now my face is totally fucked.
It's literally a story being told to these teenagers to rile them up. Whereas this information being shared because it paints a picture or puts a proximity next to badness. It's a narrative either implicitly or explicitly that the organization sharing this information wants us thinking about. I bet if you did a study of reporting of crime across the entire country and counted the number of unnecessary descriptors for each demographic possible, it would paint a picture that we already know and talk about. In the movie, they paint the picture that this opposing school are dogs. They're rabid hounds, that ferrets more specifically, that will attack our women, and it's up to our men, represented by the football team, to step up and be even more violent. This is said pretty directly now, but this entire movie is filled with little nods to this in the background, telling us to either be violent or be a victim, to be predator or prey. This feels systemic, and it also makes me think the principal is directly responsible for the violence and is linked to the cycle that has existed between these two schools, as the elder Gay points out later on. Plus, this is how he actually reacts to a woman telling him that she felt attacked.
I can explain. Jeff is psychotic and he tried to murder us.
Sure. You're all victims and girls are always right?
Yeah, actually.
It just seems like the principal is fucking malicious, dude. Back to the plot. The girls never addressed the lies being told about them about the attack and now the mentions of Juvie, so they become complicit in their existence. Also, it's pretty obvious that Hazel was the one who let it slip about Juvie and was not a good friend to them in that moment, but that's never really addressed there, that she was the one who kind of spread the rumors. The principal calls the untalented Gays to his office, and they get a stern talking to about not threatening Jeff, the captain that will lead them to a victory after a 20-year game in the making is about to be played. They get out of it by announcing the idea of a self-defense club, and the true star of the group, Hazel, starts running shit without any recognition. Even as the group forms, they don't see the full value that Hazel is contributing and ultimately the one that is pushing this thing to exist in a really good good form. Just pointing this out because they do a phenomenal job of keeping Hazel's contributions behind theirs until they lean into this later on, making it clear that she was really the one making so much of this happen. The co-founders have the conversation, they recruit, the self-defense club starts, they outright further the lies about Juvie and start punching each other in the face. The first session goes about as poorly as it could, and they realize that they will need an advisor, which brings up the beautiful Marshawn Lynch. They believe they are manipulating him into this position, saying things like periods and vaginas and preying on his ignorance for their own freedom to seduce unsuspecting babes, but he was married before. He's not a little boy being grossed out by the crimson tide. I promise you, he woke up at least once and hid the stains so that, he could wash the sheets later on without embarrassing his partner. Also, the entire school knows them as the ugly, untalented gays. He 100% sees this as their attempt to get closer to hot women. But he's an ally and doesn't shit on their dreams to smash. The club starts. Our fearless leader shows her jellyfish backbone the second the rules apply to the people she wants to smash. The group stumbles a bit to figure out how they should do this. How people actually fight each other, but an inspired moment strikes Josie, and she speaks from the heart. Nobody is going to teach us how to defend ourselves. We have to do it ourselves. And that's true as an adult. It's a scary world. If you don't take some kind of class growing up, take one as an adult. Ultimately, it's still on you to be putting yourself in the position to learn. Nobody is going to make that happen. The girls say over and over that Huntington is coming, showing that, hey, it's working. They are being conditioned to fear this thing. And they are coming to do physical harm to them, this looming threat that may or may not even exist at this point, but remains ever present in their minds. Marshawn watches the girls beat each other up as we transition to a montage of the positive change for this group. It's working. They are feeling good about themselves because of what's happening. It's literal empowerment and solidarity. #GirlsGetItDone. This amazing moment ends as they refocus on the sexual adjacency to being in this position with other girls and the erotic thoughts that originally made them make this facade. Their plan worked. They just wanted to get laid and tricked these people to get it done. And now it's pretty obvious that they're close. This is when the weights of their bad actions actually, I think, start weighing on them. They realize that this could actually happen. Despite their bad initial intentions, this is still causing net good for the people involved, and I think that's important to note. It kind of says something about art and the artists and being able to separate the two. Also, the fake fighting in this whole movie is done so well, and this was the first time they just really nail it. The founders talk about their intentions, and it's reconfirmed that this is still about smashing until Hazel turns the conversation to talking about trauma and bonding with each other on a more emotional level. PJ sees this immediately as another tactic, citing her desire to come after every therapy session, which sounded pretty odd at first. Well, to me, my partner knew exactly what she was talking about, and I was like, "Babe, what are you talking about?" But actually, as I thought about it, it does make sense. I believe, and I'm not a therapist, but I think some degree of sexual attraction and ability to be sexual is linked to comfortability and safety. I think there's better words for this. I just don't know them. But if you're engaging with a therapist and feel that form of catharsis afterwards, it could definitely put you in the mindset to come. Someone with more knowledge, please comment below. But yeah, if you're feeling safe after that moment, if you're feeling good, I get it. But ultimately, what I want to know is your experience. I want to know exactly when my viewers are coming. Please and thank you. This man makes his intentions a little more clear. He means to disrupt, again, leaning into this football versus nerd trope that is just, will it ever be boring? Who knows? He issues a warning about taking away attention from the team.
I think that's literally impossible to do.
Josie dismisses the idea, but he stomps off, taking us on our first real emotional sit-down between the group. PJ doesn't do a good job of starting it, but it does get rolling. Everybody shares a little bit about themselves until the coach gets involved and finishes strong with a man, men do need therapy assertion. During this, Hazel really lets a part of herself show, and then Josie leans into the juvie lie until it also turns into her being vulnerable about having these new friends and this safe space, feeling a little bit bad for for the reason they actually started this space, maybe wanting to say something and ultimately not. The men need therapy joke is literally just him going,
I'm going through a divorce. Whew, that shit felt good to say. Men need therapy.
and this is one of those scenes where it could be taken in a dozen different ways, but it's absolutely true. Men need therapy, but more specifically, therapy also needs to find a better way to communicate with men. If you watch Dr. K here on YouTube, he had a great video talking about the differences in taught communication styles between men and women that have led to a higher retention rate for women and a lower retention rate for men. Him literally just saying the thing that has been going on in his life may have felt like an equivalent of these girls being vulnerable to him, right? Even if from the outside it feels like he's lessening their struggle by comparing the remedial with something more, or what we would deem more traumatic, like being stalked or having a stepdad, to him, that is, he has just put himself out there. And yeah, really fascinating stuff. After the meeting wraps up, Isabel shoots her shot, which is really just the whole point of this courting thing. People like confident people, and most of attraction is just putting yourself out there, because people love to see and feel like you are exposing a part of yourself to them. Take that risk, shoot your shot. Hazel comes home to find her mom, Pork, and Jeff, who again, mommy issue magic boy here. We then see a bunch of old men taking pictures of Stella, which is really just a perfect analogy for the current OnlyFans content society. It seems like this is just a thing to do now, something that doesn't need to be hidden. And I agree, it doesn't need to be hidden. It's bright as day. It's an open parking lot. Nothing to be ashamed of if you personally don't think so. Women have this advantage at 18 to capitalize on a market of old, dirty men, something that has existed for a while but has never been so widely accessible or with so many positive data sets showing that this is a way to gain fame, wealth, and power. Everything that Gold Roger wanted. In fact, I had a friend in kink who sold content on Twitter for I think 3 years. She had 18 in her bio because it had such an inherent boost to sales. So yeah, we do indeed live in a society. Moving on. Hazel reveals to Josie and PJ that her mom porked Jeff, and we come to Tim investigating the claims that they went to juvie, which references the weight of the lying and the challenge that our protagonists ultimately face. The shoe has yet to drop, and the rest of the movie we're just waiting for this reveal that opposes them. And that's kind of cool. You keep that in the back of your head this whole time. Then we see Isabel and Josie at a diner being little gay girls, and Josie reveals that Isabel's boyfriend Jeff is cheating on her. This conversation also reveals that Isabel is attracted to the idea of Josie going to juvie, which is another shoe that has to drop at the end of this movie in Act 3. Eventually we will know that she learns that this was a lie, and it creates this drama of when. During the reveal about Jeff, Isabel's face here is absolutely wild, painfully scary looking wild. Well done to her. I want to hear the conversation about how this was directed, about the notes about what to do here. I mean, this was fucking awesome. The next day, we see Hungy Jeff about to eat pineapple and our golden boy saving the day, while also dooming the school to Columbine. PJ and Josie talk about how bad last night went until the baddest Isabel walks in and confronts Jeff immediately about the cheating allegations. He is sitting in the Last Supper pose, which has been just one of many times the showrunners satirize the current system of lifting him up above the rest of the world. Isabel breaks things off and the girls walk away, talking about egging his house. Hazel brings up the idea of a bomb and the school stops. No one actually ever addresses this, but it's a stylistic choice to have just everyone in this cafeteria staring as they ultimately decide what to do here. All the girls are stunned, and the people are just comically staring as they are the literal center of attention. PJ has a good jab about let's just do terrorism. And I was laughing so hard as the movie transitions to what it does. The girls are wearing juicy black, and Jeff dances around his room to turn around while they egg and toilet paper his house. They realize how bad they were at this, and Josie joins Isabel in the car to talk a little bit more. Isabel says,
"You kind of miss when he would touch my hair and go shiny, shiny, shiny."
Guys, gays, girls, themperers of the world, if you go to your girl, you touch her hair and go, shiny, 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 I swear to God, They would love that shit. They would, no one, if anyone ever actually has an issue with that shit, dump them. Hazel comes running, full-on terrorism, and the crowd goes wild. It was a wild shift that upped the obscurity by 100. To this point, the movie has been kind of bizarre, goofy, but we just went on full car bombing because Jeff slept with Hazel's mom, and you know what? Good for her. She is living in this moment. I'd do the same. I don't know if I'd do the same. I'd like to think I'd do the same. Am I a Hazel or am I a PJ? Am I a Josie? I might be a Josie. Yeah, Josie gets laid. Back at school, the girls are vibing with all this positive attention until Jeff's biggest supporter comes up and threatens them directly. The girls meet back up and start talking about the group ending. Because of this, PJ feels like she's losing control and doesn't want the group to end, while the others just kind of appreciate the moment that they all share together. Hazel and PJ get at each other's throats, and it spirals into a complete breakdown of the group. Hazel says that they are liars, but does not drop the bomb about which lie, which, hey, she was the bigger person here. That was entirely her lie to drop. That was, PJ had just said some outlandish, out-of-pocket shit, and Hazel would 100% be kind of within her right to drop a bomb right back. But she didn't. She was a bigger person, and she walks away. Tim here follows Hazel as she is kind of emotionally compromised, realizing that he could capitalize on her being at odds with PJ, and we come to Isabel making her move on Josie. They share a wonderful evening after Josie hides the embarrassing things that she loves, and we also learn that Rhodes, the elder gay later on, was Josie's and PJ's babysitter when they were young. This wasn't clear on my first watch, so I just wanted to point that out. The awkward nature of this moment is perfect. Like, it just felt so real. We see the same with PJ just shooting her shot. I mean, it was so soft and cautiously done, capturing perfectly how scary these moments can be. Just worried that you're reading into something that isn't there, that rejection is looming at every advance, and thinking about everything that could go wrong. We see the best case scenario with Josie, that emotional connection is there, they are willing to engage with each other, and then the absolute risks that come by putting yourself out there. When we see PJ, she was denied pretty respectfully, but the pain, oh my God, was it felt. Josie sits next to PJ the next day at the school rally, and we see more of the male-first approach in everything. Mascot with a rager, girls flashing titties, cheerleaders don't cheer, just pour water on their titties and leave. It's exactly what cheerleading has been leading to for years. It's at this moment that Tim calls out the girls' fight club directly. He calls out Hazel, matching her against this beast of a man who has been inexplicably looming in cages since the start of the movie. It seems like she may have a shot at first, but when thousands of evolutionary years paint an accurate picture, she gets humiliated, and it's blamed on her mentors not going to juvie, telling the entire school that they lied, that they started the club to fuck cheerleaders. And yeah, I mean, this was right after Josie fucked Isabel and PJ was rejected by Brittany. It was tense, the shoes dropped, and at the worst time, which is the best time for the shoes to drop cinematically. They were revealed for the predatory pitches they were, and then they get left holding the bag while the others tend to Hazel. Josie pleads for forgiveness as they leave, fully understanding the weight of what they did and how they have hurt those closest to them. Josie, in the final act of desperation, tries to put all the blame on PJ and gets called pathetic by the girl that she likes. Then, to put the maximum amount of hurt on these girls, Mr. J comes in and drops the hammer.
You know what? I'm not a fucking idiot. I just look like this.
This was such a great line. I was losing it this whole time. Love this. Bro, we've been judging this book by its cover since the start. Even when it was made to look like he was looking at porn in front of these girls, it was just a cover, right? The actual magazine says that it's about being divorced and happy. He was reading self-help articles, and all everybody saw was another dude. He goes into a monologue about his life and how Amelia Earhart was a fake hero, which, hey, let's be honest, he's right. Okay, I'm done. Any Amelia Earhart fans, you can come after me. I'm tired. My whole life I've been living this lie. I'm done.
Man, I knew women were evil. Motherfuckers always telling me no, that's not true. But time and time again.
Dude completely red pills himself and gets this stance for the remainder of the movie until the girls redeem themselves later. The girls try to dodge blame here, put shit on each other until they finally part, the friendship of a lifetime up in the air and uncertain as ever. The next day sucks. The whole school that just recently lifted them up is now sickened by their existence. The hardest loss of all of this is that the cool janitor now saw them as the monsters that they tried to hide. Also, we have the scene of Josie, which I feel like is a callback to another moment in cinema history that I just can't place. Does anybody know if this is a reference to something? It just looks so familiar. Josie makes her way to the old babysitter's house and seeks her advice. Rhodes is a wonderful addition to this movie and shows the old school disdain for the way things used to be and how they are today. She talks about the rivalry and how certain an attack is, describing all of these grotesque murders between the two schools. This causes Josie to answer the call to action, sending us into the finale of saving the day from the demons of Huntington, a threat that they have no real experience with, but everybody swears exists and is coming to murder them if they do nothing. It's a great outlandish premise and makes what happens all the better. Josie and PJ reunite, a few words to straighten things out and to get the band back together in order to save the day, because girls get it done. PJ comes to Hazel with heart and hand and gives a genuine apology about her behavior. She owns up for her wrongs, and it works. The first set of girls are ready to rally together and save the day after a little bit of coaxing. They go to recruit the rest of the group and unfortunately get shut down.
When you sleep, it should be like total darkness.
They go to cause a distraction in order to figure out how Huntington plans on killing one of the football players. Sidebar, because that specific verbiage is really important. I think I might have just figured out why everything has been about Jeff this entire time. So again, this is a little bit of a tangent. Please stay with me. This entire movie has been Jeff in the spotlight of their society, and the narrative that Huntington is this inherent threat that is hurting our women, and it's up to our football team to save the day. After Josie meets with Rhodes, who is 100% the voice of reason of this movie, she says that Huntington, each time they played, specifically targeted a football player from the team. She does say she's going to lock her door at night because of this threat, but the call out is directly to the players. And then later, Josie says that they're planning on hurting one of the players. And then, of course, the plot is targeted at Jeff, which we learned before is allergic to pineapple. That piggybacking off of that, it's not secret knowledge, right? There's flyers about this, but it does imply that someone at the school shared the pineapple allergy with whomever is trying to kill Jeff. Now, the principal has been my main curiosity this entire movie. I believe he has ties to the rivalry as he leans on fear-mongering to make them a threat. And because he turns away later when the football players enter, it just seems like he has some connection to this violent thing we know that leads to the death of a football player every single time. The empty stands on the opposing side are also curious. Like, why would not even a single player's parents show up while the entirety of the school and even adults all join this thing that is widely known to lead to the death of somebody? Through this lens, it feels weird. Like perhaps the other school doesn't exist. Perhaps this is actually a conspiracy to see just primitive gladiator violence every so often, or maybe something ritualistic, like there's a 20-year cycle going on here. Maybe each time a bunch of people get together and maybe they pick a student to sacrifice. And this year it was Jeff. They take a privileged dummy. They make him feel good and supported, like the whole world is built for him and his success, like he can't fail. And ultimately, they raise him up until he fully believes he is better and the world caters to him. They put him on flyers. They make sure he is loved and protected. They let him fuck a hot mom or two, or so, he doesn't die a virgin, I guess. And then they brutally sacrifice him for some unknown profound reason that's probably related to some kind of humiliation, right? Like this dude thinks everything in the world is just going his way. And, he gets that wake-up call if the girls didn't save his life. It's pure evil, but it makes sense with all the oddities that we've seen in this movie. It feels like I just discovered like a hidden drama masked by the stupid over-the-top comedy. The first time I watched this, the mom turning off the sprinklers felt like she had like a come to Jesus moment, knowing exactly where this was, as if she had done it before. The older guy here, like a known pervert, is more excited about the game than seeing girls make out. Why? Is it because he is about to watch someone be brutally murdered? If you need harder proof about them foreshadowing Jeff's murder, and not just by Huntington, but by his own people plotting a sacrifice, look no further than the cafeteria scene. He is literally Jesus at the Last Supper, right before Judas betrays him. It could be the principal. It could be the entire school system. It could be the town. It could be a select few that just love murdering people in brutal ways. Whatever it is, something deeper could be going on here. The presence of so many town people on this side, and not even the parents on the opposing side, makes it seem like this side is inherently evil. Maybe the other town knows and is literally staying away because of it. This may all be bullshit, but damn, it would be amazing if they do a sequel using this concept, showing the foreshadowing has been laid, like since the very start. And what's actually happening here is a murder cult that just loves making kids kill each other, loves riling them up and, telling them that they have to either be the predator or be the prey. And that puts them in a situation where they kill each other every 20 years. And ultimately they got their wish again because it's the girls still continuing this cycle. All right, enough conjecture. Let's get back to the breakdown. Thank you for sticking with me. Let me know your thoughts about that in the comments below. This is a comedy after all. I did not think I would be talking about this movie for so long. The bomb doesn't go off, and the opposing team football players come onto the field. They try to get the cheerleaders to make out to cause a distraction. For what goal, I'm not really sure, but hey, they tried. Hazel and PJ start making out, and everybody looks at them. Josie finds the pineapple juice cans on our side of the stands and not the opposing team's side, which again, super weird. Why would they be there? If it wasn't like someone on this side who actually had some kind of hand in this? Okay. They start trying to figure out exactly how they're going to kill Jeff with this juice. Our main girl here leads a run to stop the assassination attempt, and they stop the sprinkler from going off. The girls save him, but the football players aren't happy. They are ready to fight. They intend to kill Jeff, and then the self-defense training comes into play. The girls are absolutely obliterating these boys, and it leads to a massive blood, gore, straight up murder fest. It was so well done. The entire scene was just a great finale that brought together the drama of the underdogs and the girls learning to defend themselves against legitimate threat. It was fucking wonderful. So well done. Again, the fighting in this is just expert fucking choreography. The editing made it just look so real. And then the sequence of just how everything happens and the slow-mo mix, it was fun. It was so fun. I loved every second of this. Tim realizes that the girls saved Jeff and declares that this is the Viking way, absolving them of the weight of murder as the crowd cheers. PJ and Josie have a nice little conversation and laugh about what just happened. Best friends no matter what life throws at them, which again I hope is a sequel about this grand cyclical plot of murder and the people who made this happen. I absolutely loved this movie. It was a wonderful experience with my partner, and I hope all of you go out and watch it. It honestly feels like what feminism has been trying to do for years, and that's make a relatable movie. This has mass appeal, and it doesn't try to teach you something because the director thinks you're a dumb fucking idiot who needs to know their thoughts on the world. It's just a stupid, funny movie, and it lifts up women. And it was fucking perfect. But with that, we come to the end of the video. Special shout out to everybody who supports my content over on Patreon, including the great Michael Link. Thank you so much. Much love, everybody. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Share this with your friends and the other bottoms of your life. And I cannot wait to talk to you all again soon.